The hollow body frog is one of the most popular lures in all of bass fishing, especially this time of year during the summer when there's tons of vegetation, tons of bass up shallow in that vegetation and in other sorts of cover as well. But the frog is one of those lures that if you're new to fishing it or new to fishing in general, it can be very difficult to have a lot of success with it, whether it be getting bites at all or actually catching those bass that bite it. A lot of beginner frog fishermen have a lot of trouble. So today I'm going to go over 3 tips to help those beginner guys catch more bass on a frog. Now I'm going to keep this video short and sweet, so if you have any extra questions that I don't answer in this video, make sure to comment them below. This is a small channel, I don't have many subs, so I'll definitely reply very quickly and answer your questions. Now, the first tip, and the most important in my mind, is the gear you use. There's 2 parts of this. The first one is the rod and reel. You need to be using a bait casting combo. I don't really care. When you're a beginner, you don't need the perfect length or rod power or gear ratio. All that's kind of more advanced stuff. If you're just new to frog fishing, don't worry about that. Just make sure you have a bait casting combo. A spinning just doesn't have the right power, finesse. You can't fish it with a frog. The second is line. You need to be fishing straight braid. There's a lot of baits out there, a lot of techniques where you can use braid, mono, fluoro, and you can still have success. A frog is not one of those. You need to be fishing straight braid. The reasons behind this are because braid has no stretch and braid floats. Those are the 2 main ones. Also, the thin line diameter helps a lot, but you can't have any stretch because you need that power to drive those double thick hooks into the bass's mouth. So you can't have any stretch absorbing that hook set. You need your line to float because if it doesn't, you're just not going to be able to work that frog properly. The line will sink down and kind of pull the nose down of the frog, and it just ruins the action. And then the thin line diameter helps you to use heavy pound tests, which you need in that heavy cover and to really set the hook hard. But heavy fluoro, heavy mono, it's completely unmanageable. Like above 20-pound test, mono or fluoro, you really can't use without getting tangled or just no casting. The handling's terrible on those lines. When it comes to the exact pound test of braid you use, I run 50, but really anything over 30-pound test braid will get the job done. If you don't have any braid or if you don't know what to get, I'll link the braid I use down below, and you can go get some of that if you want, or whatever braid you want. It doesn't really matter what you get exactly. I just use that braid because it's the cheapest on the market. Now, so tip number 1, use a bait caster and use straight braid. Tip number 2 is going to be actually working the frog. You want to focus on walking the dog, or in this case, walking the frog. The action is just so much better, especially in open water. If you're on top of a mat or on top of lily pads or something, you don't really need to worry about it. I mean, there's not really much action you can give your frog. You're kind of just dragging it, hopping it along. The exact action doesn't really matter. But once that frog gets into open water, which is where I actually fish it most of the time, you really do want to focus on walking that frog back and forth. It just looks way better and you get way more bites on it. Just like a spook, you don't just drag your spook across the surface, you walk it. It just gets more bites. Now, a frog can be notoriously a little difficult for beginners to walk, especially without like a loop knot or anything, because you're just tying straight braid directly to that frog. It gets a bit tricky, but after an hour or so of practice, you should be able to get it down. My number 1 tip is smaller, quicker jerks of the rod to try to walk it compared to like a spook where you can kind of just whip that rod down and it works perfectly. A frog takes a little bit smaller, quicker, more jolty works the rod tip to walk it effectively. But yeah, walking the frog is crucial in my mind. It just gets so much more bites in that open water. Now, the third tip is going to be modifying your frogs. A lot of beginners hear that and they think, oh, that's going to be kind of advanced. It's really not. Super easy. I just do 2 modifications, really. First one, you've probably heard it. I trim the legs. If you don't trim the legs, they're way too long. The drag in the water, it's hard to walk your frog. And you'll get a lot of bass that just bite the legs and don't actually eat the whole thing, and you'll miss them. So how far to trim them? Again, it doesn't matter all that much. I usually trim it just kind of to the eye of that frog, roughly. Here's another frog I have. It's just roughly to the eye of that frog. Just trim it whatever looks good to you. Some guys do more, some do less, but I usually do it around the eye. And the second modification is to bend those hooks out or up a little bit off the frog. You can either take your pliers and do it, or I usually just try to grab the frog as best I can, grab those hooks, and just bend them outwards, work them out. It'll just lift those hook points off the body of the frog a little bit and make it easier to actually get the hook in the bass. One way to know if your hooks are bent out far enough is if you just kind of hold your frog like this, not squeezing it, but just kind of holding it in my hand and pull it through. Those hook points should catch somewhere on your hand. And this one, it's catching right on my hand, and actually the other hook is also catching on my finger. So those hooks are perfect. So trim up those legs and bend out those hooks a little bit. You're going to catch a lot more bass. When they actually do bite it, you're going to hook into them a lot better. So to wrap it all up, fish a frog on a bait casting combo. Fish it on straight braided line, relatively heavy braided line. Walk the frog as best you can. Might take a little practice, but focus on the walking action when you're in that open water. And then modify your frogs a little bit. Trim up those legs, bend out those hooks. You're going to catch more fish. Now, if you have any questions, again, this is a small channel. I'll reply to all the comments very quickly. So if you have any extra questions that I didn't answer, drop in the comments and I will definitely answer those.